Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining this Empowered Educator session, which is our third session today, coming right in the middle of our conference. My name is Courtney Doyle Chambers, and I will be your moderator for this session. So this is, as I mentioned, our third session today, coming right in the middle of our 3-day online conference. So this seems like a really great time to welcome our next presenter, who has joined us for many wellness-focused sessions for past Empowered Educator and All Access events. So here today to share some great ways to incorporate mindfulness into your courses is Tracy Daly. Tracy teaches general and specialized health and nutrition courses in a variety of disciplines across 3 different higher ed institutions. She's very busy. She has a master's degree in nutrition education and is a registered dietitian and sports dietitian. And we are always happy to have her here at Empowered Educator events. So thank you so much for joining us today, Tracy.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you to Cengage, and thank you all for being here today. I would love to start off our session today with a mindfulness practice. So if you can, sit comfortably with your feet firmly planted on the floor. If you're able to, if you're lying down, if you are in a different space, just find a comfortable place. And, sit up tall if you can, and imagine there's a string that is being pulled from the top of your head. So we have some good posture. And let's engage in this mindfulness practice to set us off this morning or this afternoon.
Allow yourself to be still for a moment and start breathing deeply in through the nose and out through the mouth. Don't worry about how loud your breathing is or if anyone can hear it. And there's no need to try and ignore any noise or distractions going on around you, or to try too hard to clear your mind. Imagine yourself as a rock in the middle of a stream. All the noise and commotion that may or may not be going on around you just washes over you without having any effect. Focus on your breath. Think about how anything that has negatively affected your day up until this point. And with each out-breath, you are simply going to imagine any unnecessary stress these events are causing you to feel just ease away. Breathe in and observe how you feel. Breathe out and feel it easing from your mind. Now, still breathing deeply, take a moment to visualize how you want the rest of the day to go. Imagine achieving any goals and successes at the end of the day and how that will make you feel. Create a mental picture of what that looks like and take a moment to play that out in your mind. Whenever you're ready, bring the exercise to a close and open your eyes.
Well, welcome again, everyone. And I hope that you enjoyed that very brief mindfulness meditation experience. And so today, we are going to be talking about mindfulness in the classroom. We'll be looking at a lot of different research. We'll look at how mindfulness can benefit you and your students. And so I've listed here our learning outcomes. So by the end of the session today, you'll be able to summarize mindfulness-based self-compassion practices. That's maybe a new term that you are hearing today. You'll be able to describe some of the benefits and the research in the classroom for incorporating mindfulness. And you'll be able to define some primary interventions that we use in the college and university settings that have been, experienced, tried and true, and what works best. And you'll also be able to create some of these mindfulness-based practices in your classroom so that you are ready to go. You'll be ready to go later today if you so choose. Before we get started, I want to let you know about some giveaways. So we have some wonderful giveaways today. So by participating in the chat here today, we've got 3 giveaways. So we've got a couple of things that I'll talk about. And then later on, if you join me in All Access for the Q&A or even afterward, we've got some prizes for you there as well. So we've got some mindful cards that extrapolate and go into some different categories that you can incorporate not only for yourself, but in your classroom. It gives you some really great ideas. There is some aromatherapy that will actually change color. So you can bring this into your classroom or just keep it for yourself. This is a very fun Zen garden for the desk that you can play with in sand. We've got a waterfall desk accoutrement, if you will. And then we've got some essential oils, and I like to use these behind my ears or on my wrist for some calming throughout my day. So we've got some really great giveaways that are coming up. So we're going to be giving away 3 of those today. So if you participate in the chat, and then if you join me in All Access later on, we have another 3. So there's 6 in total. So in a previous session on mindfulness, we looked at mindfulness for instructors. And I have been, and my colleagues have been incorporating mindfulness in the classroom. And I thought this was the next best step. So again, I thank Cengage for inviting me here to talk to all of you today about this information. So hypothetically, where do you think that our students fall with regard to this graphic? Are their minds full, as if we're looking at the left side here, or are they mindful? And I would bet money that they're going to be more on the left side here, where their minds are full. So there is so much chatter that is coming at us at what seems like 1,000 miles an hour. Social media, the news, work, social, family obligations. We are tied to our electronics. And the constant communication and really the comparisons that our society invites and social media exacerbates really is causing a problem in our society. I really don't care what my cousin's sister's gardener had for lunch today, but we're posting it because someone's going to care about it, or at least we think someone's going to care about it. But the chatter is everywhere. So recent research has noted that we see a significant increase in depression and suicidal thoughts over the past several years in teens and young adults. And really, this is coming from those that spend multiple hours throughout their day on screens, whether it's on their phone, their laptop, their iPad, any type of screen where they can access information. And that research shows that it's even more enhanced in girls. Now, there's a lot of reasons why that might occur, but the problem is it's happening everywhere. So the research also shows that on average, teens and young adults spend about 9 hours a day on digital entertainment. 9 hours a day, and that's excluding schoolwork. So the typical social media user now spends anywhere between 2 hours and 25 minutes on social media. And so that over time, that's an entire waking day by the end of the week. That's about 16 hours. That's an exorbitant amount of time. I know that I've done polls with my students. Some students spend 3 or 4 hours a day just on TikTok. And so where are they getting, all of the good information? A lot of this can potentially be harmful. And so this is where a lot of the mindfulness and the self-compassion practices are going to be helpful. We need to focus a little bit more on this in the classroom. So let's do a little definition. And I know that a lot of you know what mindfulness is, but maybe some of you don't. So mindfulness is a type of contemplative practice, and it presents an opportunity to focus our attention calmly in the present moment without judgment. So the practice of mindfulness promotes being aware of our thoughts in the present moment and emotions as they occur, moment by moment, We're not just acknowledging and then stuffing. We are able to deal with it in the present time. And so a lot of research suggests that focusing on the present can have a positive impact on our overall health and well-being. And the research is actually really quite impressive, and I have a lot of it coming up for you. I also have a resource list that is available to you on All Access that incorporates the research and many of the links that I'm talking about here with you today. So college students and instructors, we experience something called toxic stress. And toxic stress is when our own life demands are constantly and consistently outpacing our ability to cope with our demands. So how can we fit all of the things we need to fit into our daily life? How many of you have ever said, I wish I had more hours in the day, right? So our bodies tend to remain in this fight or flight response, and we're always on edge. We're always ready to pounce on something or run if we need to, or freeze. And so it's not just fight or flight. There's actually a freeze mode. My husband's a psychologist, and we were talking about this quite a bit the other day, and he was talking to me about the freeze mode. And sometimes instead of fighting or fleeing, we just freeze and we don't know how to handle these emotions. And so we stuff them down. And that really begins to take a toll on us, both physically and mentally. So what we do know is that these mindfulness-based activities have been shown to reduce stress and anxiety and even signs of depression. But really, it's that overall stress that we're feeling in our day, that stress that we feel in our neck and our shoulders and our back when we have jaw pain. And so by making it easier to savor the pleasures in life as they occur, we focus a little bit more on mindfulness. And this helps us to get involved and engaged in activities, which can help us in the classroom. And it creates a greater capacity to deal with adverse events. So in other words, it helps us to build resilience, and it really incorporates building skills to not only survive, but to thrive. And that's what we want for our students. We want them to thrive in not only college, but in their future. We want them to graduate and go on to what they plan to do throughout their lives. There's also a lot of evidence that mindfulness can help lower blood pressure, treat heart disease, reduce chronic pain, improve sleep, alleviate GI difficulties, and stress. Oh my goodness, stress, right? So being mindful can also help us, all of us, not only our students, but it can help us to make healthier choices. I know as a registered dietitian, I work a lot with intuitive eating and mindful eating. So when we eat intuitively, we're present in the moment, we're enjoying and we're savoring the foods. We don't have anything going on in the background. We have maybe conversation that's happening, but we're able to savor and enjoy the moment, thinking about the flavors of the foods, honoring what food can actually do for our body. Not focused on weight loss, not focused on, how much the scale reads or how the pants are fitting. Rather, we're enjoying what the food is offering us. And so therefore, we want to nourish our bodies rather than punish it. And so this is a really big factor in my world. We also see that, college students especially are at risk for eating and body image issues. And so we know that mindfulness can help reduce those binge eating and emotional eating episodes because we can pay closer attention to our body and we notice the signals that our body is allowing us to identify, such as feeling full or feeling hunger, or even just savoring what the flavor of the food tastes like. So there's also evidence that mindfulness plays a role in physical activity. When we're more active, we're doing the things that we love, we feel better overall. We likely have a release of endorphins that occur there, but we know that when we're more physically active, it helps reduce the amount of anxiety and stress that we have kind of hold up in us. and it can help reduce signs of depression. And we're seeing a lot more mental health issues in our college students. They're coming off of a pandemic, or we're trying to figure out life in the pandemic, right? But for the majority of students who were in high school and starting college, that life is gradually different. So we're really seeing a lot of anxiety and stress. At least I am in my lower 100 and 200 level courses. So mindfulness can be any of these things. Focusing on the things that allow you to be present and in the moment, not on our phones at any given time. So when we have that free moment of, I have 5 minutes before I need to go into my appointment, or I'm waiting for coffee, let's not get on our phones, and encourage that with our students so that we can be mindful and present of what's going on around us. If we say, oh, I didn't realize that tree had such beautiful leaves. Or, my gosh, I didn't realize that there was actually a really cool event that's posted on the bulletin board at Starbucks. And so it gets us to maybe be more active and engaged. And again, I incorporate this with my classes, and I help my students identify this too. So if you'd like, I'd love for you to take a moment and put some information in the chat and include some of the mindful activities that you enjoy doing, or maybe that you could recommend for your students. What would you suggest for your students to be more mindful? So take a moment and think about that, and let's get some great ideas, and we can share those with the group. So please post those in the chat. And remember, we have giveaways. So those of you that are participating in the chat will be entered for those giveaways. So I'm seeing some really wonderful things that are populating, and I've got some great ideas for you too. I'm seeing gardening, journaling, a gratitude journal. Hanging out with your pets. Pet therapy is always really a wonderful thing. Listening to music, walking, breathing, prayer. Really great ideas. And so many of you either are so interested and excited about this topic, or you really like the giveaways. Let's see what else. Unplugging. Things are coming in so fast, so I'm trying to catch up. Yoga practice, going on a thankful walk. And I think it's a great way of realizing and appreciating what our body has to offer. We take for granted those things. We really need to focus on that a little bit more. Baking bread, spiritual reading, long walks on the beach. I took one this morning to clear my head. So what a great idea. And so when we can be more thankful and grateful for the things that we have, it helps us to appreciate and not take advantage. Absolutely. So great. Thank you so much, everyone. Keep those things coming in the chat. Great information. So we'll switch gears here a little bit and talk about mindfulness-based self-compassion practice. And so the title of this series is Mindfulness-Based Self-Compassion Practice. And how do we incorporate that? Well, we have to understand what that is first. We know what mindfulness is. We're looking at, the first step in emotional healing and self-compassion. So to take that a little bit further, we're responding with kindness, right? We are looking at those difficult thoughts and feelings with kindness and sympathy, and understanding so that we can actually deal with those emotions and deal with them as they come, and not stuff them down for possible explosions later on. And, sometimes we're not able to deal with that, and that's understandable. But many of us, or many of our students, don't emote. They're not experiencing those important emotions, and mindfulness can help allow that to occur. Research also shows that by both being mindful and compassionate, it greatly enhances our overall well-being. It can boost our happiness. It can reduce anxiety and depression. And I know I keep saying that, but it's really important to understand how impactful that can be. It can help us maintain those healthy lifestyles, exercise, eating, and how to motivate ourselves with encouragement rather than criticism. A lot of our students will focus more so on the failure. Well, I didn't do this and I didn't do that. But what did you do? And so focusing on the positive is that self-compassion piece. And so all of these tools our students can use not only in our everyday lives, but especially in the classroom. And so, new instructors or instructors that are new to mindfulness will often say, why should I do this in the classroom? Why couldn't I just encourage them to do it at home? Well, we've got a good idea of how and why mindfulness can be beneficial in the classroom, and especially throughout our entire day, for many of the reasons I've already mentioned. But it also can help quiet and shift that habitual chatter. Remember that slide I showed a little while ago? Some of you maybe even came in today and jumped right into that mindful practice, and hopefully you're feeling a little bit more calm and less anxious or thinking about the things that are coming up later in your day. So these practices hold enormous promise. The research is so great for having them as a useful tool in helping you as educators and your students to improve that learning as they gain more self-awareness, mental focus, and emotional well-being. And they can do this by increasing their focus and attention. And I see this quite a bit. I teach both in the first year programs, the general education, freshman success classes, and I'm new to that this year. The majority of my college teaching is mostly in upper division health and nutrition classes and public health classes. And so I'm really seeing a diverse range of students in their ability to focus. And because of the pandemic, many of our students were learning online, and they were losing that attention that one would typically need or have in the classroom. And so I started incorporating these mindfulness practices, and I'm seeing a difference, and we're only 8 weeks into the semester. We can also help promote healthy decision-making and health-enhancing behavior, as I've mentioned, developing emotional regulation and empathy, increasing optimism, perspective taking, pro-social goals, mindful attention. There's a lot of research that connects mindfulness with helping to reach student learning outcomes. And so if your university or college is like mine, student learning outcomes are everything. And if we can achieve those, then we're successful, right? So doing as much as we possibly can to help our students succeed. It can also help to increase compassion in the classroom. So we're lessening that judgment, and we're incorporating more mindful practice. Mindfulness also, and I know that I'm going through a lot of different things here, but you can see a lot of those issues on the slide. It can also help to complement and strengthen that social and emotional learning practice, skill, and outcomes as an essential component of dealing with the everyday components that are being thrown at us, that emotional and toxic stress, and teaching a student how to be more resilient and building that mental health resiliency. So research over time has looked at many different areas of practice. So an Emory University study looked at college students, looked at adults over 8 weeks of mindfulness attention training. And what they found was that through MRI brain scans before and after the training, they showed that the amygdala activity was actually decreased in response to images of stressful situations. And that's pretty significant. Another study from the Journal of the American College Health Association followed over 400 women over 2 years. And they found that mindfulness practice on a regular basis resulted in healthier eating, better sleep, and mental and physical health overall. And so I'll be talking to you in a little while just about some apps and things that I would recommend. So not only practicing this in your classroom, but recommending certain apps for your students and for you as well. So research again confirms that this mindfulness offsets that chatter and the constant bombardment that we're getting from social media and even multitasking, because we all multitask. I bet some of you are doing it right now. And so when we multitask, we lose some of that concentration. We have a multimedia culture. And so some of us are very successful at that, but maybe some of our students have not honed that practice. So let's help them along with that. So let's do another practice here. And again, I invite you to sit comfortably. We're going to do a very brief breathing practice. This is called the 4 square breath pattern. And so let's try to help calm the mind and the body. By slowing the breath, we can actually decrease our heart rate. And as we know, with anxiety, our heart rate is increased. When we decrease that breath, or when we slow it down, we can decrease that heart rate overall. So let's practice. And this is a 4 square. So if you can envision, you're welcome to close your eyes or even just have a gaze on something maybe in front of you or on the floor or on your desk that's not going to detract from your attention. And so what I'd like for you to do is we're going to do everything by a count of 4. So we'll first inhale, and inhale through the nose is ideal. So inhale through the nose, we'll hold the breath for 4 seconds, and then we will exhale every piece of stress that we can think of, any piece of anxiety that we have going on in our body. I always call it the crunchies, things that we have building up in our neck or in our shoulders. And then we'll rest for 4 seconds. So we're going to do this a few times just to get the rhythm down. So sitting comfortably, your arms are resting either on your lap, on your desk. Let's take a nice inhale for 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath for 2, 3, 4. Now exhale through your mouth for 2, 3, 4. And then rest for 2, 3, 4. Let's do that 2 more times. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. And rest, 2, 3, and 4. One more time. Inhale, hold, exhale, and rest. And that practice took us maybe a minute and a half. And so starting out your classes with just that simple breathing practice really gets everyone nice and calm. So another term that I'd like to discuss with you here today is contemplative pedagogy. And this term is basically bringing mindfulness into the classroom. We're just using more scientific terms. So this is a shift in the focus of teaching and learning with the goal of encouraging deep learning through focused attention, reflection, and heightened awareness. This can help create a more meaningful course and learning environment. And learners are encouraged to engage deeply with the course material through contemplation, introspection, and by examining their thoughts and feelings as it's related to the classroom and the content that they're learning. And so this could be things like incorporating those mindfulness techniques, reading and writing techniques, free writing and journaling, deep listening activities. I know that I will include the music that we had, the mindfulness music that we had when we started our session today, so students can come into a nice calm environment. Even after a couple of minutes of starting the class, I continue that music, and even sometimes throughout, depending on our topic. But this can also include things like silence or art poetry, dialogue, or questions. And again, this mindfulness incorporates things that put people in the present. So, however that works for you and your classroom environment, I encourage you to incorporate. So again, coming back to the research, that research confirms that these practices can offset those constant distractions that are coming at us. Multimedia, multitasking, multi-opportunities that we have in our day. And so when we consider how we want our students to learn, right, we need to consider information, versus knowledge. And information is just getting and remembering a brief snapshot. It's rote learning, right? So we're having our students memorize information. But knowledge is a deeper understanding of that information. So when you pan out from info, you don't always see how that information is connected to other information as it's related. So it's like information is on its own island and it's independent from one another. But with knowledge, you not only understand the specific information, but you can pan out and see how it connects and it relates to other things. So you can actually connect those islands. And as we were coming in today, I noticed that some of you were coming to us from Hawaii, and some of you said, oh, I would love to be in Hawaii. So think about those Hawaiian islands getting connected and that information being passed from island to island. And so as you pan out, you see those bigger and deeper connections. And so that multitasking and divided attention will tend to result in rote learning. And we want the understanding and higher level learning to occur. So both mindfulness and meditation can increase that creativity. It taps into different parts of our brain. And that's higher, it's essential in higher education. There's also a contributory effect to enhanced cognitive and academic performance that research is really coming out with and really being extrapolated as we learn more about this. So again, it's including that attention and concentration, but it's including more of the management of academic stress and the development of the whole person. And I'm seeing even 8 weeks in with my freshmen, how they're developing into a better college student. Now, I attribute some of that to mindfulness, but I also attribute some of that to maybe my teaching, the assignments that I have, what they're learning in their other classes. They're getting more acclimated to those situations. So it's a recommendation in much of the research that instructors engage in regular mindfulness and meditation practice so they can respond adequately to students' experiences and questions. And so that contemplative pedagogy will increase and enhance many of those things that we've already discussed. So how do you get started, right? And many instructors will say, okay, how do I get started? Well, you want to start small. You don't want to come in and do a 20-minute mindfulness practice in your first session because that may not be well received by a lot of your students and you. It takes up a lot of time. So you can incorporate that brief mindfulness that we just talked about or just did, with the breathing just a few minutes ago. And find simple practices that you enjoy. I have a 14-page resource list for you in all access that gives you links to many of the things that I'm talking about here today, in addition to YouTube links that you can go to and play as I'm doing here today. You can also find scripts. So there's I think maybe 10 or 12 scripts that you can read to your classes. You can cut them, you can, modify them as you wish. And so find practices that you enjoy, whether they're pre-recorded or whether you are going through the motions yourselves. And it's easy to find those practices on YouTube or Google, and you can type in anything. You can type in mindfulness for college students, mindfulness for stress, guided meditation. So I've got some ideas for you here coming up. But enjoy the process, no matter how long or how brief. And don't worry if their mind wanders. Just have them come back to the focus of the breath. And I'm always a big fan of communication. So walking them through the practices I think are the most important so that they can focus on those things. Be gentle, be kind, and be patient with yourself and be patient with them. Sometimes it takes a few times for them to get used to the practice. And so it's always really important for them to start slow and then gain more experience. And I will tell you, I'm doing mid-semester evaluations with my students right now. And one of the questions that I have are you enjoying the mindful practice and would you like to continue seeing it? And I'm more into it than I was a few days ago when I ran through this with the Cengage folks. And so I'm at about 96%, and I have over 200 students this semester. 96% of my students want mindfulness in the classroom regularly. And I was surprised by that number. And, there's a few students who aren't able to engage because we're learning synchronously, we're on Zoom. They might be on campus in the library where it might not be the ideal situation for them. However, this can be practiced anywhere. But that is a very high percentage for a classroom to be engaged and wanting more of this practice. And so a grounding meditation that I like to do with my students is, again, just to have them sit comfortably in their chair. This is a recorded piece. We're running a little short on time, so I'm going to walk you through it myself. And so what I say to them is, let's take a seat and have your feet firmly planted on the ground. So they're sitting in their chairs in the classroom. Take a deep breath in and feel your body as you inhale. So this is something you can do right now as well. Take a long breath out and notice your body as you exhale. Maybe count your breath as you inhale. Count to 3 or 4. And as you exhale, count to 3 or 4. And put your hand on your heart. And let's do a contemplative practice here and say to yourself, may I be happy. May I be healthy. And may I find peace. And if you have someone in your life that is struggling or that needs to hear this themselves, you can give them these well wishes also. And you can reverse the terminology and let them and give them the grace and say, may you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you find peace. And again, that was a 65-second mindfulness practice that your students probably need and will enjoy. And so throughout our conversation of mindfulness, you can understand that there are different practices, and many of these practices will work for you and some of them will not. And so you just have to practice and see what works best. Your students will let you know what they enjoy and what they don't. And so when we look at many of these different practices, there's a variety here for you to choose from. There's even walking or yoga mindfulness. We can do mindful movements with Tai Chi. We can have a body scan meditation and even visualization. So typing in some of these keywords is going to be helpful for you to discover more of those information pieces. Just a couple more things here really quickly before we go into all access. I found this on Google. This is not something I created. As a matter of fact, this is through Headspace, but this is 30 days of mindfulness, and it incorporates so many fun things that maybe you could even incorporate in your classroom and challenge your students to see if they can do it too. Number 19, turn off all notifications on your phone today. Number 15, take the time to call someone you care about today. And so, these are all really great things that each of us can do every day, and they won't all fit for you, but give your students the guidelines to incorporate some extra mindfulness once they leave your classroom. And these are some apps that I would enjoy. I enjoy not only for myself, but my students do too. They recommend these for me also. Insight Timer is the #1 app for sleep, anxiety, and stress. This has won an award for being a valuable tool. Calm on the top right side actually has a student option where they can pay for the full app for $8.99 a year. And this is through Amazon. And again, I have a link for you in that resource list in All Access. All of these apps will help with mindfulness. They will help with stress, anxiety. There's even mindfulness for sleep, guided meditation. So take a look at these, and I bet that you will find some benefit and recommend that your students engage in these also. So by incorporating mindfulness in all forms, we can help our students foster many of the items that we've talked about today and many of the things in this word cloud. So please join me by practicing mindfulness with your students. Start small and enjoy the ride. Thank you so much for your participation, your interest in this topic.